Hello, everybody. Welcome to the LED series. Our guest today is Mr. Shatadru Chattopadhyay, Managing Director, Solidaridad Asia, and I've been in the leadership position for last 12 years. Prior to this, he was Senior Manager in Partners in Change. He's a strong believer of sustainable solutions in agriculture sector. He has been instrumental in developing and grounding self mechanism, assessment mechanism for agriculture crops. I welcome you, Shatadru, to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kirti, for having me here.
Let me, Shatadru, set the context. What I believe India has more than 14 crore farmers, 140 million farmers, of which 86% are small or marginal farmers, 43% are lease land holders. And the name of sustainable agriculture or sustainable sourcing, we have been asking them for a third party assessment to certify what they've been producing as safe food. Can, in this context, self-assessment by farmers is an alternate to this which is more empowering and affordable. Perhaps this is needed in my opinion. We would like to deliberate and discuss with you as you've been championing this for some years now. My first question to you, Shatadru, is why self-assessment by farmers of his her agriculture practices, why it is important or relevant for India. Over to you, Satan.
Thank you, Kirti. Self-assessment. I think we have to. You connected it with the certification system because probably that was the first time we came across data collection of farmers in a certain format, which are driven by engines like ISO. Because most of the voluntary standards like certification systems we know are based on the ISO engines. Now, data has been collected for a very long time. It's not necessary to collect it only through mobile phones. You can collect it through pen and paper as well.
Right.
So, but the question is, how the farmers are going to benefit out of these data they are producing. Now there is a significant shift that took place in our generation, my generation, Kirti, that when there is this, we call it a fourth industrial revolution of data or IT revolution, where IT reached to the nook and corners of the country, where even poor people could afford the data services. And at the same time, there is a issue that is coming up, which is related to the fact that farmers need to benefit from the data. Now, one can look at how many times the data has been collected in different formats. One, you have seen auditors going to the farmers and collecting data in the name of certification.
Right.
That's a data collection.
Absolutely.
We have also seen consultants collecting data. We have seen other agencies collecting data. But the larger question is for what and for whose benefit this data is collected.
Exactly.
And in a post-corona world is going to be a digital world. We have seen 100% increase in rural data consumption, during the period of only 40 days after the lockdown. So it is going to change. Now, question is, can the farmers themselves, they are the producers of their product. That is why they are called farmers.
Right.
The future is about their farmers will also be the data farmers. So what I mean here is data has an intrinsic value, financial value. Just like a product has a value, data has a value for itself.
Right.
And farmers are the producer of that data.
Right.
And if they have to produce that data, somebody else cannot produce it for them. They themselves have to produce that data, farm that data, and eventually, like they produce crop, they have to improve the quality of data.
Right.
And better the quality of data becomes, the better the return they should get out of the data they are generating. Principle with which Solidaridad works with the farmer is that we are empowering them to create better quality data, just the same way we were empowering them to produce better quality sugarcane or a better quality coffee and other products, and ensure that they get a decent return of the data they are generating.
Right. So one aspect is return from the data, and second aspect, when we link them to the external world in terms of buyers or those who are sourcing the produce from them, in that context, many people think external entities' role in terms of assessment becomes critical. In that context, while I completely agree with you, they are the producer of the data because they are the landowners or they are the ones who need to possess that. In that context, when we believe external entities has a role, that's convention. Within that framework, when you push farmers to really do this, how do you contextualize this in terms of what we are doing in India now?
So uh, it's very interesting. I mean, external agencies, when you are talking about, I presume you are talking about the certification and assurance system.
Right.
And Solidaridad is one of the founders of this
Mhm.
system in the fair trade days from 1988, when
Right.
we started Max Havela, or the
Right.
fair trade as we know.
Exactly.
Those are the times when you didn't have internet. Those
Hmm.
were the times when people hardly communicated. How would you assure a consumer sitting in, let's say, Europe, about the quality of the produce in a remote region of northeast of India?
Hmm.
Those times you had to send in external auditors to check and verify and send messages, inform the supply chain actors that this is assured that somebody is following the agreed principles of
Right.
quality parameters, social parameters, environmental parameters. Things change in the 90s and early 2000, and the digital revolution took place.
Hmm.
Today, the external auditors, now the question is, today you can see, very interestingly, you can see ITC, the juices, they have this I forgot the name of the juice brand, b positive juice, yeah.
Okay.
They have a barcode system.
Hmm.
So if you click on the barcode, you can reach out directly to the from where the fruit has been sourced for the juice, and the
Hmm.
farmer talking about their product.
Right.
So while many good things happened due to the third party assurance system,
Hmm.
there were certain limitations. The
Hmm.
limitation was they kind of disconnected the farmer from the supplier,
Right.
farmer from the buyer,
Hmm.
farmer from the consumer,
Great.
because they kind of came in as a middle ground, and it not only increased cost but also did not deliver on the social justice aspect for which this was created.
Right.
Ultimately, the certification was not created to generate consumer trust. It
Hmm.
was created in order to ensure
Hmm.
that environmental parameters are addressed. It was created to ensure that the social progress is made.
Right.
It was looked at from a livelihood perspective, and by many count, you, me, many other actors, we all seen that it has failed to deliver exactly in those lines. I mean, it has
Right.
many successes. I don't disagree with that, but it couldn't really reach, live up to its potential.
Right.
Now, because of that, I feel, and it has survived for 30, 40 years.
Hmm.
Now that concept is outdated. Today, the new concept is about reconnecting the consumers with the producers, shortening the supply chain, and intelligent data collection
Hmm.
through which one can assure each other.
You're right.
When a farmer inputs his data, I still feel it is a transitional phase. The phase is
Right.
coming when even farmer won't have to input its data, his
Hmm.
data or her data. It will be automatically collected through satellites, sensors,
Hmm.
weather stations, soil testing units, etc. The
Right.
larger question is, of course, every problem, once it is solved, it generates a new problem. And a new problem is, who controls the data?
Right.
And do we replace certification and a third party assurance to create a kind of a data regime
Hmm.
which is not under the control of the farmers?
Right.
So therefore, that is going to be the next challenge for us.
Fantastic. So let me take COVID for that matter. Our intention to bring this topic from the context of LED, local economy development. What you've been telling to me is somewhere linked to empowering farmers and making them the stakeholder, the legitimate stakeholder in the supply chain. You spoke thoroughly on that aspect, but let me take that further in the sense, if at all we need to empower Indian farmers, I particularly believe self-assessment has a role in that context beyond data. One aspect is controlling data or managing data and whose data and all that. But at a principal level, at a ground level, at the local economy development level, my understanding is this process may take time. This process may be beyond a transaction, more of an engagement model, but it is certainly empowering. How do you see this?
Well, I can't agree more. I mean, you see, we have gone through first literacy mission.
Mm-hmm.
We have gone through second financial literacy. We have
Mm-hmm.
talked about that. I think we need a data literacy for the farmers also. And definitely, data is today the main empowering tool. When I say data, I generate data because, again, if I'm trying to not to compare, make it equal, like a mobile application is not equivalent to the data.
Right.
Again, I mean, this is sometimes, many
Yeah, that's
people
a
kind of misunderstand it.
perception a lot of people carry. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, today, the days of application, it's a cottage industry in India. Today, everybody is generating data, those applications.
Right.
Data could be generated from multiple mechanisms. Even a
Right.
tractor can generate a data if you have the right equipments put up there. But I think the data literacy is
Mm-hmm.
becomes a very important element for the farmers, because a farmer has to first fill up the information. Just filling up the information may not empower the farmer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is a start. The farmer needs to be trained just
Mm-hmm.
the same way. Look at Kirti, like what we did for 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
We trained farmers to understand how to apply pesticide, how to apply manure, how to apply, use water in a sensitive way, how not to use harmful chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
etc., etc. We had to give them those education
Right.
uh, together with experts and other people. Similarly, I think there is a space which is opening up about training the farmers on data literacy.
Mm-hmm.
They have to make meaning out of the data that
Mm-hmm.
is coming out. For example, today in most of our programs, I find there would be very few farmers who would be able to make meaning out of weather station data
Right.
or rainfall data. It has to
Right.
be made into one, it has to be converted into easy, simpler mechanisms. And two, it should be, we need to train the farmers. Now, if you look at the high end gadgets for
Mm-hmm.
more privileged community or privileged class of India, today Apple recently launched its latest watch called Apple Watch 7 or 6 or 7, or 8, I don't know, the latest version. it
Okay.
can it can actually give you blood oxygen level
Mm-hmm.
while you
Mm-hmm.
wear. It's so simple. You don't have to train yourself for that.
Right.
But it is outside the privilege of farmers. So why can't we create products
Mm-hmm.
where, one, you train the farmers to input decent data
Right.
and high quality data, and that by that way you make them the data farmer,
Mm-hmm.
because inputting requires training. And
Okay.
today the biggest problem in the country is this business is occupied by agri-tech companies. And while again, fair enough, I mean, there is space for everyone and
Right.
we welcome that, but it is never going to be business wise viable if you employ consultants to
Mm-hmm.
collect data.
Right.
It is always going to be viable if you become the teachers
Mm-hmm.
rather than surveyors.
Right.
And when you become a teacher, you have to train the farmers to not only input good quality data, because it is like, you're not, the better the quality data you input, the better the results you get.
Right.
So similarly, so that's going to be, I believe, for most of the NGOs
Mm-hmm.
and development actors, this is going to be important element.
Okay.
Again, it is connected to the livelihood agenda that you mentioned, Kirti,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, today your trade is not done on the basis of carrying the product to different markets. Your trade is actually of data.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
you sell data of your coffee,
Yeah.
and a company buys the data of your company where you have to give certain parameters of quality, again another kind of data.
Right.
And then of course some agency will come and pick up your coffee and deliver. That is only shifting of a crop from one place
Right.
to another. And
Right.
similarly, there are many other mechanisms. Access to credit, you
Right.
have to have certain kind of data. Score, you have to have certain score to achieve the credit rating.
Right.
Similarly, for input market, you need to know what is your soil quality or soil standard in order to know what kind of fertilizers you have to apply. You need to know the insects, so that you can understand what chemicals you need to apply. It is everywhere in our life, and we already have that in the middle class community. We don't realize it. Unfortunately, the farmers don't have it. And if we don't have those trainings going on very soon, most of our plans, doubling the farmer's income, more crop per drop, or issues around the health, soil health cards, all will fall, will go sideways. So
Right.
it is very much in line with the national agenda of India as well.
Right. So, how are you doing it in terms of your crops, for example, sugarcane or tea? For our viewers, can you give a bit of a framework approach how it is actually happening on ground? Because that's many people would argue is not easy what Satadru is saying.
From the very beginning, we realized there is a lacuna in the market. Either you are giving irrelevant tools to the farmers, or you are making the tools so complicated because you are it's like you are experimenting with different kind of softwares and applications, but they don't really matter to the farmer. So our first thing was how to make the farmers benefit from the digital revolution that has taken place. Second was to how to find a solution that is beyond certification, because of what we discussed, certification had many limitations.
Right.
And thirdly, the idea was to see that, we very quickly realized that these farmers, just like, let me give you an example of coffee, for example. Coffee farmers don't have control over their product because they are the lowest price receiver of the chain. They don't have much value addition going on for coffee. And you can replace coffee with any product.
Right.
They are forced to give their private data to the certification bodies in order to remain supplier. It's not voluntary. They have to do it, otherwise their product would not be in a supply chain. Highly fragmented, and the supply chains are highly fragmented downstream and concentrated on the upstream.
Right.
Now I take you to the data situation. There is no control over data, same. Receives zero price for the data. No, the farmer never gets any price for the data they generate, ever. and there is no value addition. They don't add value, and forced to give private data again to agri-tech companies, to certification bodies, and hardly any sustainability rewards. So what we tried to do in sugarcane, we have tried out now in sugarcane, in tea, soybean, and very soon in cotton, a kind of a method. And we are working with, Kirti, you have been also supportive on those activities in sugarcane. We have probably, I don't think too many other organizations will have more than 100,000 farmers data already, 100% relevant for their purpose and taken after their consent and for their own purpose.
Right.
Similarly, in cotton, we have a target of getting another 100,000 data. Once you generate this type of data, you start, creating a kind of analysis with big data, which would be beneficial for the farmers.
Right.
It could be three kind of benefits I see where Solidaridad is working for the farmers. For the production support solution, what we were finding was initially we would provide a package of practice for farmers, which will have probably 10 type of agronomical training.
Okay.
And often when we work on a very large number of farmers, like say 50,000 or 100,000 farmers, you will kind of use it as a template for all farmers. You won't have a precision training.
Right.
Some farmers may have been experts on that particular area, and still you will continue training them. So it helps in identifying the precise support that is needed for a farmer. As a result, you not only save cost, but make those trainings more relevant for the farmer. Um, and then it also helps the farmer themselves to compare. The best learner is when we were in school, we used to learn from each other, from the classmates. And I think the farmers to farmer learning is the best way possible in order
Right.
to improve and change behavior. A
Right.
outsider like you and me, when we come, and it may not work exactly in those lines.
Right.
This application allows the farmer to check or benchmark their performance against the farmers who are in the neighborhood, in the district, in the village. You can give filters as much as you possible, and they can actually compare them.
Okay.
Thirdly, it also, what we are doing is creating animated videos,
Hmm.
because farmers don't have, what, why farmers, not anybody doesn't have too much of patience to have too many prescriptive documents being pushed through software.
Right.
So we try to make it entertaining by creating cartoon movies connected to the local customs and local myths and local hearsays, and that has created a lot of traction. We have seen that a lot of people are watching those kind of improvement videos
Hmm.
with a storyline.
Okay.
Now, in sugarcane, we have got all those chapters where improvement is needed. We have created a video.
Right.
Uh, Now, the other part, this is the first part. This, if I use a pyramid model, I would say this is the base of the pyramid, which is the
Right.
production end,
Right.
good practices. So it actually goes in a production pyramid angle. So this will cover the large number of farmers.
Right.
Let's say something like 50% to 60% of the farmers.
Okay.
Some farmers will go beyond that, which is the middle of the pyramid, where we
Right.
go into the assurance, or the what you call, in a normal language, we call certification.
Hmm. Hmm.
It is not a certification, but of course it's kind of an assurance mechanism where data could be collected and verified automatically
Okay.
on behalf of government, large supply chain actors, and other standard other businesses who would
Hmm.
like to collect those data. And it is not against the existing certifications. The
Hmm.
existing certification system goes for, let's say, a certification for uh, Rainforest Alliance.
Hmm.
It will, a audit process will cover only a square root model where only a select few numbers will be collected and tested and verified.
Okay.
Here, you have 100% sample
Right.
to kind of, this will improve even the traditional audit process
Hmm.
if a company wants to go in that route.
Okay.
Now, of course, from Solidaridad perspective, you don't need to do it,
Hmm.
because what we are offering is far more stronger and more powerful than a third party audit system.
Right.
But sometimes companies take time to change. If they
Hmm.
have taken a policy, they would like to continue that process.
Right.
So even in that context, it saves time and ensures it improves the third party audit system.
Okay.
And thirdly, and now you go to the top of the pyramid, it
Right.
creates a sort of traceability.
Hmm.
Today, as a producer, honestly speaking, there are many surveys which has been done, and they show that there are limited confidence of consumers on the product line and the claims you make from a third party assurance agencies.
Right.
They have a more faith if you have clear understanding of where the product is coming from, how the product has been made, and
Hmm.
this provides you a traceability solution like nothing before.
Right.
And it all not only helps the companies to engage with the consumers, it also helps the consumers to connect with the producers.
Hmm.
And more important, lastly, if I take the whole pyramid, it
Hmm.
is very beneficial for policy influencing, also policy support
Right.
as well. The governments, uh, with all due respect, the fact remains that the quality of data and the regularity of data collection remains very not so effective in our country, as we know.
Hmm.
And when you have updated data of every year, it
Hmm.
allows the policymakers to come up with effective policy making and go for precision support. Often we have seen in the situations that a village after village who have already implemented drip, they still get drip subsidy. Village after village, you have mortars, but they still get mortars. It kind of creates wastage, and
Right.
you can get because the data. It's not that they don't have data, but data doesn't get updated in a
Right.
very quick frequency. Again, because unless we remove the data illiteracy of the farmers,
Mm-hmm.
you will require others to collect farmers' data, which
Right.
kind of at the minimum will cost you 200 250 rupees per farmer.
Okay.
So
Right.
which is impossible, at least 100 to 200, the range between 100 to 250, because it depends on what kind of data you are collecting, how many farmers you are covering, and that's not really business wise feasible. And
Right.
also there are a lot of risk that remains, because there could be, I won't feel comfortable if my data is filled up by somebody else
Right.
and makes a
Right.
claim on my behalf.
Absolutely. So your argument is so powerful. I only want to build from there. See, the farmers is central in your mechanism of data gathering, data collection. He's the user of the data, and this pyramidal approach helps various stakeholders, the supply chain actors, including the policy makers. Within that context, if I bring the market forces into this argument, we've been conventionally doing a lot of stuff which are third-party centric and all that. When you take sugarcane for a large district like Hardoi or something, you have a model which is emerging from that area. How do industry players look at this in terms of acceptance, or at least are they saying this is a positive direction? Any issues, any concerns when you look at industry as such or market as such?
Well, no, absolutely. I think this is everyone is happy about it. I mean, why should, again, as I said, information and data creates knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
knowledge is power.
You're right.
Anybody who's missing it out is going to be pushed back in the race of being successful in business,
Mm-hmm.
be it of farming, be it of processing, be it in consumers, or and at the end. So I don't think there is any debate about the necessity of that.
Right.
The main debates which are still there is, how do you collect the data,
Mm-hmm.
how economically you collect the data,
Mm-hmm.
how you make the data relevant for different stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
uh, how do you equally share the benefit of the data. I
Mm-hmm.
think that becomes a very important question for NGOs. uh, if you don't empower the farmers,
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow businesses will have the wherewithals to collect the data,
You're
just the
right.
way they had the power to collect the products,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they will use the data for enhancing the shareholders' values, which is okay. But when we are talking about stakeholder capitalism today, it is necessary that we have systems
Mm-hmm.
where stakeholders are work together in a capitalism where you protect the shareholders value but also stakeholders value. And unfortunately we don't have systems like that yet
Right.
in
Right.
the data ecosystem. But right now it's pretty obvious in sugarcane. We are already implementing it with the Shriram Group, DSCL
Mm-hmm.
Shriram Group.
Mm-hmm.
We are already implementing it with Renuka Sugars. Uh, it allows the mill to know from where what their farmers are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It allows them to provide better services to their farmers. It
Okay.
allows them to plan better.
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, why there should be any in fact they are our very close partners in
Right.
working on those issues. Similarly on soybean, this is a very big benefit.
Mm-hmm.
You have seen some of our soybean programs in Madhya Pradesh.
Right.
uh, in Bangladesh, we even employed this tool, and they used to have 120 days crop
Mm-hmm.
for soybean, like unlike our India's 90
Mm-hmm.
days.
Mm-hmm.
And to our amazement, they have reduced the time period from 120 days to now 95 days,
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of input coming in. Of course, we help them with seed varieties and other things, but the information was the key.
Right.
And when you reduce it by 25-30 days, it means money for the
Mm-hmm.
farmers. It allows them to do another crop.
Right.
So there have been effective, I don't see any major issue
Yeah.
coming in from the business. If at all, it is beneficial for them. Now of course there are other side of businesses also. This is only the processing side we are talking
Right.
about. I think this is fantastic for end user businesses also.
Mm-hmm.
So far they have been very limited in understanding the power of the concept, and we as NGOs we need to engage with them more deeply on making them understand the power of the concept, because today FMCG companies, food companies, they are basically looking for a solution which is beyond certification.
Right.
They have done this certification today. I don't think the consumers are really very excited about putting a seal on the pack. And there are
Right.
many products on which you cannot put a seal on the pack. So I think that the business is also looking for a solution, and traceability solutions, blockchain solutions, IoT solutions are going to be welcomed by the businesses in a re-engaging with the consumers in a certain new way
You're
that
right.
allows a kind of a positive way of differentiating your products
Right.
from the standard product. Um, I don't want to name them today. I'm not in, we haven't discussed with them about whether, but I have seen many end user companies are going to
Mhm.
put it up, going
Okay.
to work with us on such solutions.
Okay.
And the last but not least, I mean, there are two more segments: the
Mhm.
retailers, the
Mhm.
supermarkets,
Yeah.
and the consumers. Supermarkets are very much aligned with these concepts
Mhm.
because they have seen falling sales because of people are not interested in differentiating using the logo. So they are very much aligned, and they want to know where, from where their products are coming from,
Okay.
because they are the first source direct connect between the consumers,
Mhm.
modern trade I'm talking about.
Right.
So similarly, consumers are
Right.
also, I already spoke at length about
Mhm.
consumers.
Mhm.
And I, I don't have to talk about many others. I can tell you about my wife and me. I mean, when we discovered this ITC, juice,
Mhm.
we were uh, we were so pleasantly surprised when we used the barcode and hearing a farmer talk about, the mangoes they
Mhm.
have produced in order to make the mango juice. It had
Mhm.
a very different feeling. For a
Right.
very long time as a consumer, my connect with my producer has been, when I was a kid, I would have a connect with my, the fish farmer who will bring the fish to my home. When I
Right.
was a kid, I would have a connect with my tailor who will stitch my clothes. As we progressed, or we developed, we kind of disconnected with our producers completely. And I
Yeah.
see a trend of that coming back. Increasingly, we see IT is allowing us to connect with the vegetable growers who has produced our vegetable. IT is allowing us to connect with our, you know, uh, fruit farmers, with our wheat farmers. Many things are happening.
Right.
So I think it is good for everyone, good for
Right.
producer, good for government, good for businesses, good for supermarkets, and definitely good for consumers. It is a good empowering tool for the farmers,
Yeah.
but it is also a good empowering tool for consumers because their voice, their preference were somewhere lost. And this tool allows the consumers also to become an actor
Okay.
in this whole process of sustainable chain development.
Fantastic. Satadru, this was a very interesting conversation. I know it will trigger thinking in many development sector players. With your 1 million farmer base, if you are able to do it, I think the proposition is very much there for others to get into this. Our intention from local economic development point of view was this model needs traction, this model needs further deliberation, and I hope your viewpoints will be seen in that context and people would start looking at seriously. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks once again, Kirti, for having me. And let's continue this talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye bye.